Hi everybody, I'm Maddie Julian, and I just want to say thank you very much for inviting me today to present to you all. It's a real pleasure to share with you the story of DigiBete and its origins, where it's come from, and how we have supported the hospitals to create a new model of healthcare for patients alongside their care in hospital. Yeah, I'm ready to start, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. So here we are. This is our story, Life Through a Lens, developing a new model of healthcare. And the reason we've used this picture of a lens is really kind of obviously cameras have been very important to our journey, and kind of documenting what we do is very much kind of part of DigiBete's fabric. So we thought it was a good analogy to use. So life before diagnosis, this is us, and this is really before DigiBete. We were very happy. I'd taken a bit of a career break as I had come back from doing a big job running an arts centre and was about to have a baby. And here he is, Otis. And this is my partner, Rob. Rob was working in production at the time before diagnosis. And I was working as a part-time teacher, and together we'd formed a new production company, and we were kind of working together to build that up, and it was there was some tough times, but overall we were a very happy young family. Rob and I had some really interesting shared skills and also opposing skills, which I think have stood us in good stead in terms of setting up and establishing our journey. So for me, I've always been a really big thinker. I was often called an entrepreneur when I was working, because I always wanted to kind of change things or improve things. I was quite intuitive. I was very vision driven. And I have a background in theatre, media, and film. So I was often looking at new projects and directing projects and stuff. I was also kind of quite strategic in what I did, and I managed to get quite strategic roles in my early career as well. And Rob, my partner, he's quite methodical, I would say, and he's most definitely a tech expert. So I would have kind of like ideas, and he would be able to put them into practice, which has always been really, really interesting. So I'd say, it'd be really good if we could create this production, and then Rob would be able to look at different ways that we could kind of integrate technology with it. It's very process driven and design focused, and he's a big lover of detail, which is another good complement to my kind of big thinking. Together though, we've also got some really shared passions. So we both love digital media. We love creating things. We live for creativity. We're very socially driven as well. We've both worked in the voluntary sectors before, supported groups, minority groups in different capacities. We love to learn socially, so I think we do lots of kind of online stuff, and if we don't know something, we find it out, or we go on and do, as I have, lots of higher education courses as well. And we both have something else really important in common. We are both dyslexic, and contrary to kind of other beliefs, we really see this as our gift in doing things differently. And I think it's something that runs quite strongly through how we've created DigiBete. So we'd like now to sort of talk to you about, how the story of DigiBete kind of came about. So I'm going to show you our story film, and this kind of shows you how we've created the early stages. Unfortunately, DigiBete started with the unfortunate reality that our son was diagnosed, and I'll leave you with this now, so you can see the impact of that.
On the 4th of November 2015, our beautiful young son became one of the 30,000 children in the UK diagnosed with a life-threatening condition known as type 1 diabetes. We spent a week in hospital learning how to manage this very complex condition. The diagnosis came as a complete shock, and when we came home, our extended family confided in us that they were no longer comfortable looking after our son because they hadn't had the excellent training that we'd had whilst we were in hospital. It was this traumatic experience that motivated us to set up DigiBete. We quickly partnered with Leeds Children's Hospital diabetes team, who then not only recognised how much NHS resource we could save, but also validated how long-term outcomes for self-management would improve. 2 years in, and we've been featured in business magazines, medical journals, and local and national press. And we've been featured on the BBC when we launched our full platform. We've built a very strong business model, a network of influencers, and a strong social media presence. We co-designed the DigiBete platform with families and have created a full clinical approval cycle to ensure all our resources meet the needs of families and healthcare professionals that we serve. Since launch, we've had some amazing feedback, and we're now available in 99 languages and are being used in over 100 countries around the world. And we've recently won 2 important industry awards. We've been sponsored by Novo Nordisk to create video modules to complement the award-winning Goals of Diabetes curriculum. Our platform extends support, education and training and addresses the key NICE guidelines for taking self-management into the new digital age. We draw on personal experiences, our film production backgrounds, business and teaching, medical expertise from the Leeds Teaching Hospital team and our wider communication skills to create this free-to-use, innovative digital video platform which is available to the Type 1 community 24/7. With your help, we can really improve awareness by working with families and the community to better manage children and young people's short and long-term health outcomes, and reduce the over-reliance and interactions on scarce NHS resources and specialists. By providing a unique space for online, patient-led, clinically approved education, awareness and training.
So I hope you enjoyed that, and it is a kind of been a very, very interesting journey. And as you heard in the film there, our NHS journey began really in the wonderful Leeds Children's Hospital, although not a place that we'd have chosen to go. The care that we received in the hospital was absolutely fabulous, and we were so fortunate to receive that care. Otis has been very, very poorly leading up to the diagnosis, although we hadn't really realised why. He kept getting lots of infections, kept going to and from the doctors with lots of different complaints. Like the doctors kept saying that he had like bladder infections, but it wasn't showing up on the tests, and they kept treating him with antibiotics and stuff. And slowly over the course of time, got to Halloween, and he was actually with my friend, and he wet through. He was completely wet with his skeleton suit that he was wearing to a costume party. And my friend picked him up and said, "Maddie, he's soaked from right the way up to the neck." I said, "Oh, he keeps doing this, and it's like this is the, this is like only being put on this suit an hour ago," and we just couldn't really believe it. Anyway, luckily for me, she's an NHS nurse, and she said, "Maddie, I hope this isn't the case, and it's probably very unlikely because he's so young, but this could be the signs of diabetes, of type 1 diabetes." We were really upset about that, and wondered, we also thought maybe this is too young for it, but we went back to the doctors on the Monday as recommended by her. This was a Friday, and we booked an appointment first thing on the Monday, and the doctor said, "Well, it's very unlikely that that's the case. Come back in a few days' time and have a blood check anyway with the nurse. Book in with the nurse, and we can just check." So a few days passed, and we came back to the nurse, and we'll never forget the nurse's face when his blood glucose was checked through a finger prick. Very easy test. Took about a couple of minutes, well, not even that, 30 seconds. And I don't think they like doing it because it's a little bit of a prick on the but no more than an injection or something. So we had that done, and the nurse's face just went absolutely white. She was laughing with me beforehand and just sort of saying, "Oh, is he tired?" and all this kind of stuff. And I said, "Yes, he's not really been doing too much. He's been very lethargic and stuff." She's like, "Oh, there's lots of viruses around." Anyway, she did this check, And sure enough, his blood glucose levels were absolutely sky high. In fact, the meter couldn't read, it just said HI high. And so at this stage, we were then told to get to hospital quick, and this was confirmed by the doctor. It was all very, very rushed, and we went in our own car and we got calls to say you need to get in quicker. So they were obviously very, very concerned. When we got to hospital, he was straight into ICU, and it was a very, very critical time, and we got the sort of confirmation that it was type 1 diabetes. So the care in hospital was amazing. Everything we learnt was amazing, and the team were just outstanding. But our baby was diagnosed with diabetes at just age 20 months. It's lifelong, insulin dependent, and you're told then that you'll need to check his blood glucose at least every 2 hours throughout the night and day. And to be honest, in our experiences, sometimes it's a lot more than that. So it's a real shock to learn that you will become a nurse and a scientist and a doctor for the rest of the childhood of your child, and you probably never lose that responsibility. So our world sort of like really fell apart at this stage, and it became ever clearer that we had potentially a new purpose, and that was to use our skills for absolute good, and to support our community. So we began our kind of walk out of the darkness, if you like, and this is I think this is probably the best analogy that we can give. Carrying your baby on a tightrope out of the darkness and trying to find your way, trying to balance everything. What you don't realise with type 1 diabetes, especially in children, is everything affects it. Growth hormones, the weather, excitement can send them really high. Spontaneous exercise, and we all know that toddlers like to have a good run around or wrestle, but that can send them into a nasty hypo, a life-threatening hypo at times, and we've had some very nasty ones with him being under 5 during the diagnosis. And so, even for adults, I think this is a difficult condition, but adults can feel their own body and can react. But obviously for children, they can't tell you. Luckily for us, we got some good technology early to help us, but it's certainly not the cure. And it's a very, very round the clock condition to have to manage both at home and at school. So we were on this tightrope pretty much with our baby, and we were, trying to find our way. We've got the NHS on our back there. They're supporting us every step of the way with everything that they can do. But what they can't do is train all those people on the ground looking up and trying to help us. And that was the real challenge here, was all the family members that didn't have the training in hospital, the childminders and the nursery staff who had no idea what type 1 diabetes involved, and how kind of close the management needed to be. And so we found that on our journey, all these families were the same, and they were all manually having to train every single person around that child to be able to manage the diabetes. And coming from an education and production background, we just knew that was not right. We knew we could do something about this. We could create a platform and an app and digital materials to support people to be able to upskill the community around the child. So the training and stuff behind DigiBete is not just about the parent, but it's really about the grandparents and the childminders and the aunties that want to be involved, and to really stop the isolation that you feel on that first few months after diagnosis. So we set about building a team. We went to Leeds Children's Hospital and we said, we've got this idea. We want to create some essential films for people to be able to review at home. We want every child to be able to, the families around these children, to have the same information that we had in hospital. So we approached the lovely Dr. Fiona Campbell here, and said to her, we've got this idea. We sent an email to Leeds Children's Hospital. This is something that we would like to take forward, and we'd like to be able to give people access to this amazing training that you do in hospital whenever they need it. And Leeds, being very, very forward-thinking, the diabetes team at Leeds Paediatrics got it on board and said, let's do this first thing, then let's film these 10 essential things you learn in hospital, and let's show them at a parents' evening. So we worked with Caroline Mullier, who volunteered, and Frances Hansen. So Caroline's a registered DSN, diabetes specialist nurse, and Frances is a dietitian. And together we formed a team with Rob, who's obviously my partner, and John Hughes, our business director. We decided that our skill set together, we could really do something quite magic. And this is how we started off. With the Beta platform. So here are the essentials that we filmed. What is hyperglycemia? What is type 1 diabetes, and the like. We self-funded this platform, so we self-funded the 10 essential films. We put it on a web page for people to be able to access whenever they wanted, and it snowballed really fast. I think we got 10,000 users pretty quickly onto the platform. And we knew then that we were going to do something that would change the world of diabetes for children and young people. And we set about our mission, really, of creating a digital infrastructure to support children and their families within this space. We also recognised that seeing ourselves in others was such an important part of this training journey. So we set about creating or filming the stories of other young people and their families, and how they've got to grips with their diabetes. Peer support we knew was really, really important, and it's often very much lax in the communities of these young people who could be the only person in their school with type 1 who's got to obviously manage this very, very tightly, give insulin for every bit of food they eat. They've got to watch themselves going hypo in when they're doing exercise and PE. They've got to manage their anxiety and all their education around it. It's very, very complex. We wanted to reduce the isolation for these young people by providing role models of their community, so people in the community who were managing it well and could support them. So we've set about filming all these stories. And I'd like to share with you now the very first story that we filmed, because it's still something that really kind of highlights the sort of complexness and sadness that can happen to a young person as they're diagnosed.
Hello, my name is Millie and I'm 6 years old, and we found out I had diabetes a year and a half ago. It was really hard at the beginning when I got it, but now it's fine for me and I can handle it. This is my kit. My dog has chewed it a bit. When I'm high, I feel really giddy. It means that you like to run around a lot. Sometimes when I'm really low, my legs feel a bit shaky and my hands feel a bit shaky, but this is the only day where my heart was bumping a bit fast. I go to dance and gymnastics. And I also play a flute in the morning. When I was at Rainbow's Camp, my mum had to come because it wasn't going very well. My teachers and the children are very kind to me, but the teachers always tell me to go out for my check, but it makes me really frustrated because I want to do it in my class. It does make things a bit complicated. Well, I want to not just sit in a field and wait when I'm hypo. When I go to the clinic, I feel scared, shaky and excited. It doesn't stop me from doing anything.
So, I hope you enjoyed that and got a flavour for what DigiBete's about. We want to humanise diabetes. We don't want it to be a medical condition for these young people. We want it to be something that they've got, but they can still go out and achieve, and recognise that, we all have our different kind of levels of disability, but it shouldn't hold us back. So we created the full platform. As you heard in the story film, it launched in 2018 in February, and since then we've been building the resources. We've now got 200 or so video resources thanks to funding from the National Lottery, from some of the medtech companies, and also a big thank you locally to Morrison's, who have funded all of our schools films, which is been a huge passion project of ours to make sure that teachers and teaching assistants have role models too, in terms of how they manage those young people, and they hear from other young people about what it's like to live with type 1 diabetes in school. So we've created a whole training package and suite for teachers as well. But this gives you a bit of a broader view of the infrastructure that we've been creating. So whilst we've been creating the resources, we've also been creating a digital infrastructure for children and people's diabetes within the country. We partnered with quite early with the National Children's Diabetes Network, which Dr. Fiona Campbell, our clinical lead, heads up. And we recognised that it wasn't just the children, young people and the families that needed digital resources, it was also the national network of paediatricians and healthcare professionals, nurses and dietitians who needed a place to share good practice and really kind of work together to improve care in a digital space. So we've created a national network website for those healthcare professionals as well. And we've created a DigiBete app, which now takes the resources that we've made and curates them via age. And I'm just going to show you now a little bit more about the app. So our app actually takes things a little bit further. It allows people and teams to communicate directly with patients, to send good care resources, reminders, for them to be able to help support the cultural needs of these young people in a really kind of bespoke way. And all the resources are tailored by age for these young people and grow up with them as they turn a new age. They get a new set of resources. And then there's a record system as well for families to keep a current record of their insulin ratios and organise their diabetes, because one of the really, really big things when you're diagnosed is this idea that suddenly you get a whole lot of things to do every month. You have to order new equipment, and you have to keep on top of that. If you run out of it, you're not going to be able to get your insulin. You need to be able to order the insulin itself and have that come through the doctors. And there's battles there as well about prescriptions being cancelled, or lots of families who have things cut down, like test strips and things, and they have to fight for that. So you've got to become a warrior, a fighter. You've got to become somebody who can be really organised with the diabetes, and you've got to know all of your ratios, which are very, very complex indeed. So the DigiBete app is there to support families, patients and families, by providing a 24/7 access to clinically approved education and digital peer support. Before DigiBete, the only peer support you could get was online on Facebook groups and stuff, and it is very, very good lived experience. But sometimes you get the wrong experience as well, or you get somebody giving some sort of clinical advice that isn't really the right place, and DigiBete provides the clinical advice that's needed whenever anybody needs it. They have instant access to the clinic sick day rules and hypo guidelines and important documents, and they have a place to store their insulin ratios and records, a place to increase their self-confidence, and really a kind of convenient place for all of their appointments and reminders, and additional support from their clinic remotely. Now, from the clinic point of view, which is now, the clinics are now funded by NHS England under the COVID response system, This provides an absolutely amazing opportunity really to turn what they were doing in terms of face-to-face support and some of it into actually kind of digital groupings and support. And so this was recognised by NHS England, and the funding has been provided to support families through DigiBete nationally now. So it's a place really that we can improve the well-being of patients. We can secure, it's a secure place for dissemination of clinical advice, and it's a place really to help reduce the harm that can be done by patients not managing their diabetes well for whatever reason. And often it's not their own fault, but it's their family circumstances or it's lack of education. So with the launch of the DigiBete app now being funded by NHS England under the COVID response, I'd like to share with you our promo video that went out and giving you a little bit more flavour of kind of the up-to-date version of the DigiBete platform and app.
The multi-award winning and free DigiBete platform and app have been created specifically for children and young people with type 1 diabetes and their families. Our community-led, clinically approved resources promote better self-management and can be accessed 24/7 to improve care. DigiBete have created hundreds of resources with multi-language functionality, providing awareness, education, training and support for patients, families, their communities and healthcare professionals. The DigiBete app grows with patients by tailoring resources by age and is a vital self-management communication tool, enabling the delivery of advice and resources from local diabetes teams direct to patients' smartphones or tablets. Store insulin ratios, school healthcare plans, record future health appointments and receive ongoing structured education and so much more. Type 1 care in your pocket. For more information, visit digibete.org today.
So I hope you enjoyed that, and you can see kind of where we've gone with the resource, and this is just to show a little bit of very top line on our impact. So DigiBete is now used in 150 countries, and the majority of our users, about 80% or so, are in the UK, but we are being used as a free resource for on the platform anyway, around the globe. So we have 72,000 users on the platform, and they're growing each month. We have 140 clinics, NHS clinics in the UK additionally, that have now also adopted the app and are implementing this as part of their healthcare delivery programme. And this is such a significant shift in the way that families are able to work now with the healthcare professionals in such an open way to really improve the lives of our community living with this really kind of onerous condition. So we're really proud of that stat, and we continue to work to onboard clinics and patients across the country. And this is just a bit of a case study in terms of a healthcare professional coming back to us a couple of months ago saying that they'd saved nearly £1,000 on paper envelopes and postage costs through our common system alone on the app. But this is only really the tip of the iceberg, and we'll be showing the improvements in terms of health and outcomes over the course of time as well, and really those emergency admissions, which are so costly to the NHS and costly to the young person's experiences as well of how they manage their type 1. Some feedback from healthcare professionals. So really proud to say that healthcare professionals are getting pretty passionate about what we do, and we get a lot of thank yous when we do the training, because I think we're really kind of trying to solve that issue for them about supporting patients remotely. Usually for diabetes, you see a clinician 3 times a year and have all of your checks done, and at the moment that's very challenging. And so we hope in the future they'll have the DigiBete app and all the good checks, but at the very least these healthcare professionals are able to properly support patients remotely as well using the app. And patients say as well how much they love it, and that it's really targeted to individual needs. This was actually a Twitter post, not ours, but could have been ours, that we found online, and it was from a clinic and who would kind of put this together. So it's a completely anonymous comments, but I think it sums up why we've made DigiBete really. They wanted scribbling down of ratios, organising your diabetes, being able to store your appointments and have all the education in one place, and it being really easy to navigate has been a real success story for DigiBete. And I suppose, coming full circle, this is our life post-diagnosis. So we didn't let diabetes hold us back. And we did have another child, and this is Dylan. So we now have Otis and Dylan. I think Dylan provides a lot of balance in our lives in terms of the diabetes for Otis as well. They now got a buddy, and thank goodness, because of all the lockdown measures and stuff. And most of the time they get on when they're not bundling and turning into fighting. So just wanted to share with you that although there were some very, very dark places for us, we now are well and truly into the light. I'd like to just finish by sharing with you a really important message now. So you've heard the story of DigiBete and our passion for creating all the infrastructure. But we'd like to leave you with a film that Otis has actually made. So he's drawn and voices that's been out through the national network and to the families with type 1. And this is really giving some education around diagnosis. So if nothing else from today, I would like to remember these stats and the fact that young people can get type 1 diabetes. Know your signs. Thank you very much, and it's really lovely to be part of it.
The signs of type 1 diabetes are feeling tired, feeling thirsty, getting thinner, and needing to go to the toilet for a wee a lot. Be a hero. Know the signs.